Let's be real for a second. Your circle didn't just get smaller. You just outgrew people. Not everyone had the discipline, the vision, the mindset to grow with you. So now it feels like you're alone. But what you're really experiencing is separation. And separation is a requirement for elevation. No one really talks about this part of growth. They show you the glow up. They show you the confidence. They show you the success. But no one talks about the silence that comes with it. They don't tell you that sometimes elevation feels like isolation. And the truth is, your circle getting smaller isn't always a loss. Sometimes it's a sign that you're outgrowing spaces that no longer fit who you're growing to be. The first reason your circle is shrinking is because you're not the same person anymore. You don't think the same, you don't move the same, and you don't tolerate the same things you used to. And that makes people uncomfortable because people don't just enjoy who you are, they get comfortable with who you were. The version of you that said yes to everything, the version of you that stayed quiet, the version of you that didn't set any boundaries. So when you start evolving, when you start saying no, and when you start protecting your energy, that disrupts that dynamic. And not everyone is going to adjust with you. So as a result of that, some people start to distance themselves, not because you're wrong, but because you're no longer convenient. Another point is you start to be more selective with your energy. As you grow, your tolerance changes. You don't have the same patience for drama, and you don't have the desire to entertain negativity. You don't have the same need to always be around people. You start realizing not everyone deserves access to you. And that realization alone will shrink your circle. Because when you stop overextending, when you stop being available 24/7, and when you stop pouring into people that don't pour back, a lot of connections fade. Not because you cut them off harshly, but you stop forcing what was never balanced to begin with. Here's something some people don't like to admit. Some relationships only worked because of who you used to be. They worked because you were unsure of yourself. They worked because you didn't have boundaries. And they worked because you were still trying to fit in. But once you stepped into your confidence and once you start to realize your worth, those same relationships start to feel off. The conversations start to feel forced. The energy starts to feel heavy. And the connection just doesn't hit the same. It's not because anyone necessarily did anything wrong. It's just that the foundation of the relationship just doesn't match who you are anymore. Growth requires space. You cannot grow in noise all the time. Sometimes your life gets quieter. It's because you need the space to start hearing yourself think. Space to figure out what you actually want. Space to reset your mind. Space to focus. And that space does not always include a crowd. A smaller space often means fewer distractions, fewer opinions, and fewer influences pulling you in different directions. And while it might feel lonely at times, that solitude is where clarity starts to happen. And it's where you really meet yourself. Not everyone is aligned with your future. Just because someone was in your life before doesn't mean that they're meant to be in your life forever. Some people were seasonal. They were there for a specific chapter, or they were there for a specific lesson, or they were just there for that specific version of yourself. But they're not aligned with where you're going next. And if you try to keep everyone, you end up slowing yourself down because you're constantly trying to maintain connections that no longer match your direction. Growth sometimes requires separation, not out of hate, not out of ego, but just simply out of alignment. In this stage in our life, we're building depth and not just connections. When your circle gets smaller, something else happens. Your relationships get deeper. You stop having surface level connections and start building real valuable relationships. The ones where you don't have to pretend. The ones where you have mutual respect. The ones where you actually support each other's growth. Those kind of connections are rare. So instead of having 20 people around you, you might only have 2 or 3 solid ones. And honestly, that's enough because quality will always outweigh quantity. I know it can feel lonely at times. I know you can feel like you miss how things used to be, the laughs, the conversations, but you have to ask yourself, Do you really miss those people, or do you just miss the old version of yourself that existed during that time? Because sometimes we don't actually want to go back. We just miss that comfort. Your circle getting smaller is not a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that you're becoming more intentional, more aware, and more aligned. And not everyone is meant to walk with you in that new chapter in your life. So instead of asking yourself, why are people falling off? Ask yourself, am I becoming someone I'm proud of? Am I protecting my peace? Am I growing? Because if the answer is yes, then your circle is not shrinking, it's evolving. Sometimes a smaller circle means less noise and more clarity. A smaller circle is exactly what you need to become the person you're trying to grow into. So don't chase the crowd. Let the right people find you, and let the rest fall where they may. See you in the next one.